the leader of the Conservative Party. Thanks again for joining us today. Lisa, good to see you.
Thanks very much, Mark, for having me.
All right, so you watched that unfold. What are your impressions?
Well, it's never a good omen when you want to start your speech and all of your speech blows off your podium.
I noticed that, yeah.
I thought that he recovered from that, but maybe that's setting the stage. My takeaways were the Prime Minister is only going because his team doesn't want him there anymore. I think Canadians passed the point a long time ago in terms of wanting to have the Liberal government in place, and that the Prime Minister is now catching up to it. And I don't think he's doing this because he wants to. I think he's doing this because he has to. Which means that there may be a lot of confusion as we move forward until March, because as has been said, he's going to, or they have prorogued Parliament, which means no parliamentary business is going to happen between now and the end of March when they come back. And there will be a confidence vote for whoever is in charge in March when Parliament resumes. But suffice to say, the Liberal caucus has decided they are done with the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is accepting that, and he's actually making his announcement before the caucus acts on Wednesday. But Canadians, in my view, made this decision a long time ago. And even though the Prime Minister, I think, is hoping that his leaving is going to actually put the Liberals in a better view, I don't know if that's the political calculus here.
Right. I asked one of our previous guests, no matter who the new Liberal leader is, will it really matter given the polls right now and given the fact that Canadians seem generally tired of the Liberal Party at the moment?
Yeah, Canadians are tired in general, and it's not just the party, because you have to remember the stuff that Canadians are complaining about are the results of the policies that this Liberal government has been putting in place since 2015. Look, they had the mandate to put these policies in place. There's no question about it. But Canadians do have the power and ability to say, look, this isn't working for me, and we want to have a change. And I don't think changing the leader is going to change the impact of all of these policies and the desire for Canadians to want to try something different with a different party. And the other part of it, too, is, quite frankly, the people who are putting themselves forward to be the next leader, to be the next Prime Minister, quite frankly, are all part and parcel with the entire, I would say, 10 years of this Trudeau government. They were actively involved in developing the policies. They were actively involved in selling them and implementing them. Even Mark Carney, he's playing a big part right now in these last number of years with this Liberal government. So they're all tied to the record. It's going to be really hard for the average Canadian to see a difference or a fresh face, as the Prime Minister said.
Lisa, do you think no matter how Prime Minister Trudeau's tenure ended, that this was inevitable, in that when you look at history in the Western world, leaders like Thatcher, like Harper, 9-10 years seems to be the limit. Would you agree with that?
Oh, certainly it does. But normally, you know, in Canada, at least, where this usually ends is with an election. And that's kind of what my complaint is here. You know, we are running into an election year. This could have been something that was dealt with a year ago. And I guess the reason why I'm more annoyed than anything else is it's not like this is happening in a vacuum. You have to realize that this is happening against the backdrop of the incoming president, President Trump, threatening serious tariffs on the day that he takes over as the president of the United States. That has an incredible impact on the Canadian economy. And right now, we're going to have a lame duck prime minister. We don't know who's going to be the next prime minister. The government is not going to be sitting. There's not going to be any kind of legislative powers in place. You can't pass any bills in order to actually pay for the increase of security at the border to appease the incoming president. So it's the worst timing possible, quite frankly, that the Liberal Party decides that they're going to make and throw upon the Canadian public this incredible change. Hindsight's 2020. It should have been a long time ago. I would be more comfortable if you were calling an election today, to be quite honest. Lead them into the election and let Canadians decide, because changing the leader isn't going to change the fact that it's the Liberal Party that's the problem with respect to how Canadians feel right now.
So for the Canadian delegation, whoever winds up being among that group when they negotiate with the United States, you're saying they're going to have one arm behind their back. Is there any possible approach where all this turmoil and the situation in Ottawa, yes, it's a disadvantage, but is there a way to somehow negotiate from a position of strength, or not really?
And I think what we have to do is rely upon the relationships that the business community has made with their fellows in the United States. We have to rely upon the relationships that Canadians have built politically as well across the border, just to try to make sure there's not as much damage as possibly could be had if these tariffs are put in place. It's one thing to be involved in negotiating a new NAFTA. That's fine. It's the actual setting of these tariffs that have the maximum amount of damage. So anything people can do between now and January 20th to stop that from happening, I think, is extremely important. This government does not have the power to do that because most of Mr. Trudeau's front bench are probably running to be the next leader, and we'll lose that horsepower at the front. They're not going to be allowed to be the ministers while they're trying to take over the Liberal Party of Canada. That just doesn't work. You can't have a part-time cabinet minister negotiating on behalf of Canada.
And lastly here, from a business perspective, do you think inevitably that Canada is kind of, I mean, business will continue, but there is so much uncertainty until late March, early April, till we know how things actually work out, that it's going to be a tricky situation all around?
My focus right now is on what happens with respect to the tariffs. I think that is the one thing that can have an impact on our economy that is truly out of the reach of Canadians to make an impact on or make a different decision on. This is in the hands of the United States. And I know that the president-elect, Mr. Trump, did indicate this morning that there'll be no watering down or paring back of his tariffs that he's proposing. So I'm cautiously pessimistic, quite frankly, as to whether or not it's going to be a difficult time for us between now and March, when the government has decided who the next leader is, who the next prime minister is, and quite frankly, how we're going to proceed. We'd be better off with an election right now, to be honest, and just get it all out of the way. It would be a lot quicker, and we would have, at least, we'd be able to say to the United States, look, we're going through a process here, and can you cut us a little slack? But for us to go and say we're just changing the chairs in the Liberal Party, I don't know if that holds any weight with the Americans.
Thank you for your time, Lisa. I'm sure we'll do this again when we know more.
You bet. Thanks.